I'm going to show you now how I would approach a pine tree. And the first thing you'll notice that I've already put a blue sky in. This is to save time. But I wanted to show you how we marry the sky to the tree. I've drawn this out very roughly here, but I've also drawn, and with an HB pencil I've used here, a stronger line for the outside. Now the reason for this is going to be obvious in a moment. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come down the other side. I'm not going to do it all, just a little bit to show you. Now, I started with white, and you can bring the white in over the top of that marking. Okay, that's the white. That's rubbed in with your finger. Now, I'm using an HB pencil because it doesn't spread. If you use any softer pencil, you could find that graphite would spread, and that could spoil the illusion. Now, on top of that, I'm going to use a 149, which is a blue. Now, it doesn't matter which blue you use if you're going to do this yourself. I've just chosen to use this one. Not too much, just enough. You could always put it on again, but if you put too much on, it's difficult to take it off. There we are. Now, that looks pretty good. There you go. Give it a good rub in so it's even. Now you notice that what we've got here is a lot of the blue has transferred itself over to the pastel paper. Now that wouldn't be too serious because I'm going to use a dark green, but it's always best to try to get rid of some of the blue there. So what I'm going to do now is use my double-ended eraser just to take some of the pastel off. That means it'll be back to pristine condition and allow the greens that I'm going to use to register better. And that's going to be done all the way down. Get rid of the dust, and away we go. Now it gives us a nice even amount. Now I haven't worried about clouds in here. This is purely the tree that I'm showing you. Now we need to have a darker green here. So what I'm going to use is this one, which is 167. And we start off by putting the green in. Now you notice too, another thing, that it's not that regular all the way down. And the reason is that we don't want to make it too uniform. And even when I've done that, I'll even spread it even further like that. Now the texture of the tree is really important here. And let me just do a little bit more on this side, and then I can come down both sides to show you. You can finish the tree at the top however you want. And you go over. Now, there are going to be places where the light will show through. So it's a good idea when you're doing any tree just to leave little spaces like that. And I'll show you how we fill that up later. Random design is another thing. In other words, don't try to make it too much of a pattern or regular pattern. It's got to have a random design to it, which means that it's not regular. Now I've gone both sides there, and as you see already, it's looking quite nice. But you see these little holes. I'll show you what I'm going to do with them. I'm going to do it right now because it's a good idea to start doing it as you're doing the tree, so you don't fill it all up. When I say little holes, it means pastel paper showing through. Now I'm going to use the white here just to put just a little bit. Now it doesn't matter if you overdo this because you can fill it up more. But at the end of the demonstration you'll see how important that was, and then come back in a little bit here. You could even put just a little spot of blue. Don't go mad here. You can't blend this because otherwise you'll blend the green into it. But that already looks good. Now that's going to look better in a moment because what I'm going to do is use a darker green. This is 165 in the Faber range. Now watch this. Go over the top of that. Now could I have used a lighter green? Not really, folks, because you're coming against a very light sky and it would look silly. Now as you do this, you go round those little white inserts you put in. Now you can see already it's looking good. Now another thing with a pine tree, and with any tree, you're going to have branches. You're going to have a tree trunk coming in. Now, it's a little early yet to do it, but you can see I've already got that. Now, I didn't design that. That was just there. So, right at this early stage, you could start putting that in. Just put I'm using 181 in the Faber range. Just put a little bit of depth in, you see. Now we've got a little tree trunk. We've already started with a little fir tree, look, at the top. And that's going to be repeated all down. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to work my way down here, all the way down to the bottom, using this pencil, which is 167, all right? Then I'll be using 165, so those are the only two I'm using for the colour. I shall be putting more colour in that, but for the moment, let's just stick to that. I won't bore you, because it'll take me a long time to do, but I'll show you little bits as we go down. So you'll see me fill it in, then do it, fill it in, and do it. But it'll only be in stage, so the whole lot will take me just a few minutes to show you how it's done. Now you notice that I left a lot of pastel paper showing through, and the reason for that is this. Let me show you how I did that. I'm using 170 in the Faber range, and what we've got to do is put the light in. Now the light will go on top of the dark to a certain extent, but it really looks better if it hits raw paper. In other words, we get different tones now because we've got the dark on its own, or the dark greens on their own. Then you've got the mix of the lighter green and the dark green, and you've also got the light green 170 on its own. Now I can complete that right down to the bottom, and I'll show you again a couple of stages for that. But you'll also see we've left some light there. Now the light will only occur on the edges because it's such a dense tree, so we just pick up a few of those light areas with the white, as I showed you earlier, like that. And that's probably enough. You don't want to go overboard. That's fine. Anyway, let me complete that. We're only going to use that green. There are other greens I would use in normal course of events, but I'm trying to make this as simple as I can for you. So let me carry on. I've almost finished this light green. Now I'm now going to show you another colour that we can add, not all over, in places, and that is the brown ochre, which is that one, and that's 182 in the Faber range. There's a lot of ochre in trees anyway, but I'm going to put some in here, but again, you just pick your spots, not everywhere, it just goes in where you feel. I mean, we've got another colour to put in here yet, a dark colour, which will give us a separation of all the foliage. And you could do this after that, but I always think it's nice just to prepare the way for the dark, because once the dark goes on, although we can put light back in, it's very restrictive at that stage. You see how that influence is there? Some of this is going to be hidden anyway and in the dark, so but it's still a nice idea to put it in. It's a lovely colour too. It's one of my favourite colours of all of Faber pencils, 182, and I use it in nearly every picture I do. Okay, now I think I've probably put enough in there. I don't really think of it. And there are other colours I said I normally put in, but I'm trying to keep this as simple with as fewer pencils as I can get away with for you. Right, so that's fine. And now the dark colour. The dark colour I've chosen to use here would be 181. Now it could be that you could use maybe a 175 in the Faber range as well. But let's start off here. Now this is a long job, so I'm just going to show you little bits of it. Now you're not going to see any tree trunk until we get to the bottom here, because it's such a dense tree. But I love the idea of that break there of the light, and be quite gentle to start with. It doesn't go everywhere, but there's a surprising amount of dark in the tree anyway. Now this is a similar idea to what we were doing with the light green. Sometimes the dark goes on top of a dark colour, a very dark colour, and you can press home, you can push home a little stronger. And other times it's slightly lighter. So again, you can vary your strength as you go down. And this is extremely difficult. I've got to tell you folks, if you've ever done trees in any other medium, you'll find it's one of the most difficult things you can do. Pastel pencils, I think, is easier because you've got a control. You know, you can stop, analyse. Now, having got to that stage, there is something else I'm going to show you. You don't have to do this, I've got to say, but it does make a difference. Now, I'm going to use a colour shape. I've just got to clean this off a little bit. This is a pointed grey colour shaper. We use colour shapers a lot in our work. And let me just show you how this works. The idea is you want to lose some of that sparkle. Now, sparkle is when you see the paper showing through. You don't too much, just a little dabbing action. Don't blend it, otherwise you blend all those colours in together. And as I say, you don't have to do this. This is something that I have done fairly recently, and it makes a difference. Now, I don't know whether you can actually see it, but it does look really, really nice, that. Now, I'm going to go all the way down with the 181 here to do that, and then I'm going to use the blender. So you'll see me do that, but you'll also see me doing something else, and that is the black. Black is really important if you want just an extra bit of punch. Like, let me just show you a couple of little bits like that. Again, it doesn't go everywhere. It just goes in just those areas that you feel you want just a little bit of extra punch. It also gives you this separation, because the top of the pine trees go every which way, and mainly upwards. It's not until it gets to the bottom that it starts to fan out because of the weight of the branches. So there's a little bit of black. And again, I will also then use my colour shaper just to push that in. And you'll see me do all of this. I do all these procedures again, but it's only sort of little bits and pieces. Now you might look at that and think, isn't that too much dark? But there is a little magic touch which I'm going to show you right at the very end, which really is like icing on the cake for this. But that looks great at the moment, and that's what we've got to do, folks. So I'm going to do it all the way down there. We're nearly there now. What I'm going to do now is bring back the 170 and add just a little bit more light. Now, as I said, the 170 goes over the top of the very dark colours, but it doesn't register as well as it does when it hits the lighter tones. So you get a kind of mixture again, which is the secret really to the foliage. You get different depths. Anyway, I won't pursue that for the moment. I'll carry on with it. But I'm also going to show you another. This is 104 in the Faber range. Now you can also use white too, so I'll use a combination of two here. Two colours now. What we're doing is putting the highlights. Again, this will go over dark, but it's better to go over the lighter tones. That's the idea of this, and I shall continue it down there. Now let me show you the white too. The white can go back on, and it could just, I won't put it all over, it's just to brighten up some of the lighter sections like that. Let me just, when you have sharp pencils, you break them, right, and you then can use it just to put highlights on, like that. Anyway, I shall carry on all the way down there. Once I finish that, will be the end of the tree. Then I'll show you how I'm going to finish the trunk off and just do a little bit of work down here. Right, just for the trunk, I'm using grey. Any mid-grey would do here. I'm using 233, but you see, we haven't been able to put any trunk in there at all, and it would look silly because this pine tree, especially this kind of pine tree, is very dense. So, although I put a little bit at the top, there's no point in putting any more on now. Just there, I've just put the 1/8, and no, I haven't. I've put the 233 in, and now a bit of green, and then followed by a very dark 181. You could put a bit of brown in as well, if you want, but you're not going to see too much of it. It's going to be very dark. And just to finish it off, a little black. There we are. One pine tree, which looks great. Just put a little bit of black also in here because we'll have quite a lot of shadow with a tree of this kind. I haven't worried about showing you the grass because that's another demonstration another time. But this is how it's going to end up. I hope you enjoyed it. I've enjoyed showing you. Be sure to watch the next demonstrations in this series. I look forward to seeing you soon. Bye for now.